The State House of Representatives has passed a $7.5 billion budget for next year. It includes raises for state workers and teachers, about $2,000 for teachers, making the state minimum. It also features $200 million for the new Early Childhood Education and Care Department. It's more spending, but is it too much or is it not enough? Let's ask the Line Opinion panel. First up, we welcome Line regular and attorney Laura Sanchez-Rivey. Always good to have you here. Another Line regular, former New Mexico House Minority Whip Daniel Foley joins us. We also welcome Line guest Dave Mulryan, founder of Everybody Votes. And Catherine McGill is back. She's the founder and director of the New Mexico Black Leadership Council. Now, Catherine, I'll start with you. Is there a signature program of funding strategy that you like in what you've seen so far? What grabs you during this whole scrum we're having here?
About the Opportunity Scholarship. And, I think it's great that we're talking about higher education. Mm-hmm. $35 million, is it going to do the job? And first dollar, middle dollar, last dollar, which approach are we going to take? But what I really want us to look at is accessing college the goal, or is graduating the goal? And is this money going to get us to more people graduating? When we look at some of the statistics in the research, they talk about the fact that, more people start to access, but it doesn't necessarily have a great impact on the number of people who complete college. Mm-hmm. So I think all along the pipeline, we have to go back and look at from early childhood, and I'm glad that we're investing more money in early childhood, but all along the way, what is our real goal, and are students reaching literacy and numeracy in what we do? And I had a friend who said that if you have a problem that can be solved by money, that you don't have a problem. And I suggest that this particular problem can't be solved just with money.
Right. I like that quote there, whoever that friend was.
Robert Clump. Thank you.
There you go. Right on. Daniel, the idea, I'm going to counter here a little bit. In my setup, I asked, is it enough or is it too much? A little bit of pushback from Republicans about this whole thing going on. I found it interesting that Jason Harper is proposing to have a 4.3% annual cap on the rate of spending increases, which is very interesting to me. I'm not sure how much chance that has. But what's your sense of how we're approaching the money we have at hand right now?
Yeah, so we've, look, we've never had, I don't feel like this state's ever had a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. Gotcha. And we've had it across all governors. I've said this before, Gene, we get in tough times, we cut everything 10%. So to me, I don't understand why we're funding things at 90% that don't work and cutting things 10% that do work. I think the Republicans' heartburn in the budget is not necessarily so much the growth, because I can tell you, once people get up there, it's amazing how you can come from a home that makes $50,000, $60,000 a year, and in just a short amount of time, $1 billion doesn't mean much to you. Mm-hmm. But what I think the heartburn is the recurring costs.
Gotcha.
Putting in programs that, hey, we got this windfall of money, so we're going to create an early childhood development program, an opportunity scholarship. We're going to expand Medicaid. We're going to do all these different things that when the money dips, you still got to pay for that. So I think the Republicans would like to say, I think they would say, as we did when I was there, we're not opposed to investing that money, but you can't take your one-time bonus from work and buy a new house and say, now I can make my payment. You might want to fix the house. You may be able to go pay cash for something, but to add as a monthly payment is going to be a problem. So I think that's some of the heartburn. Is it too much? Look, we've sat around this table, Gene, you and I have knocked heads for 15 years on this, right? There's not a problem you don't think money can fix. Yep. I don't think money can fix any problem. We look at the education system in New Mexico. We have tons of issues facing education in New Mexico, but I could tell you when you compare us nationally, funding ain't one of them. Mm-hmm. We're in the upper third every year of the percentage of budget, the amount of money going to public education. I just think there's a huge gap between funding in Santa Fe and classrooms. Mm-hmm. And the more you throw into that gap doesn't mean you're going to fill the gap. You're just burning that money. So I would like to see, before we start talking about expanding programs, spending more money, we should be hitting a reset button right now. And we have the time and we have the money to say, let's look at what's working. Let's grow that. Sure. Let's grow on the things that are working. And let's take a step back. Because in state government, as we all know, once you create something, That's right. Seems to never go away.
You can't really roll it back. Dave, on that point, Kathy brought up the Opportunity Scholarship Fund. That committee hearing turns out people want to kind of pull back a little bit and put some more money into things that are already in place. To Dan's point, is there a middle ground on that? I mean, the governor really, really wants to have this Opportunity Scholarship Fund.
Right.
Is it going to survive? I mean, it's interesting.
Well, I mean, again, Molly Ivins was very clear when she once wrote, government is like a hammer. You can use it to build up or you can use it to tear down.
Sure.
And, money certainly helps, but we need to be real. We have facts. There's a statistics department at UNM that tracks their dropout rate, which is 50%. Eastern New Mexico University graduates 17% of their kids. New Mexico Highlands is not much better. I mean, we are looking at a failure rate of half. I mean, that's absurd. And you can throw money at it. We've thrown a lot of money at it. Yet I think we're missing leadership. We need a lot of people in a lot of positions to say, if we let you into UNM, we expect you to graduate from UNM. Whatever that takes. And, Smith College, which is a women's college in Massachusetts, very well known for their graduation rate. They actually started paying women who were in poverty, they paid their rent because it didn't affect how they could get their benefits. We need new thinking, we need leadership. I mean, if the governor says, I need a 90% graduation rate from UNM, that helps a lot, and that doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And UNM can do it. If you look at their presidential scholarship program, 450 kids per class, that's 1,800 kids that go to UNM, they have a graduation rate of 98.5%, higher than Harvard's graduation rate. So that institution, if they decide, can graduate kids at a great rate, and we should make that available to all the kids. But I don't know that we need to say, get into UNM, get out of UNM with a degree, no matter what.
This makes Kathy's point she made earlier. It's not
Yes.
about the front end, it's about the back end, who's
Right.
coming out of it. But we do have raises for teachers, second year in a row, and I don't know if there's much argument about that. Is that something that, you know what I mean? It's a start, as they say, to get this thing going, but what's missing here from this discussion that folks are not so warm to this idea?
Well, I think that there has been some agreement. I think it comes down to the percentage, the amount of the increase.
Okay.
So there was 5% for teacher pay raises, 4% for other education employees. Those other education employees are also critical to the classroom.
Right.
In many cases, we're talking about educational assistants who help with some of the most vulnerable populations in our schools. Special education students with language issues, all kinds of additional employees to help teachers. And so I think that's a really critical population for them to focus on as well. And then, of course, the 3% bump up for state workers, which I think is important as well. We end up, I think it's really difficult to get state government done. I work a lot on issues at the PRC, and the PRC is chronically underfunded. And you end up attracting folks who aren't necessarily, going to be at the top of their game sometimes, or they're not necessarily inclined to work as hard because of the incentives. Now, the people at the PRC work super hard,
Sure.
but they also could use a huge increase in pay. I know them in particular, but beyond that, I did see some interesting parts in the budget that the House passed out of committee. $76 million to shore up para.
Yes, I was about to ask.
The public employees retirement system, it needs to be fixed, and I think
More
that's
than
a
broken.
huge, it's beyond broken. They also had $250 million for road projects, which
Right.
is an infrastructure infusion of jobs. Really, when you think about that, that's a really important aspect.
That's right.
And then what I found interesting is that they have a $2 billion in cash reserves, which represents 26%. That's higher than normal. That's a high cash reserve.
Let me ask you on that question, that cash reserve. I'm going to throw this out to the others as well. We have to have a signal to the credit system out there as well, that we're solid. We're on solid ground here. We're not just spending everything we have coming in. Is that going to be enough to send that signal? It's going to be...
I think that's that's a high number. That's
Yeah.
been higher than in past years. I think it's a good reserve to have at this point when you have extra funding. But this particular budget does represent about $529 million more above current levels. And I think to Dan's point, it is concerning. I think when you look at where we've been, especially in 2016 when we had to cut so many programs and cut funding so much, to now expand that much, 7.5%
Right.
above current levels. I mean, that creates an unfunded mandate, right? You're continuing to grow programs. And I think, as Dan said, there's some reason to that, which I can't believe we're agreeing, but
Hail Mary, full of grace.
Where-
Well, interesting. Let me turn to Kathy on that. The idea that we have to catch up a little bit. We heard this after the Johnson administration. The Richardson people said that, and that's why they spent. You see what I mean? The Martinez folks, and now the Lujan Grisham says we have to catch up. This is why we have to spend. We keep doing this crazy roller coaster thing.
Deferred maintenance. You have
Right.
to sometimes go catch up and fix the house. And I think
Right.
that that's what they're attempting to do. And, I would say what Dan is saying is true, is that we don't want to overreach, we don't want to overspend. But I think that some of these issues about education, fixing the problems that face education, are really, really important. The question is, are we doing it the right way? Are we creating the efficiencies where we need to create them? And is that money being well spent?
So we talk about addressing some of these problems, like in
Got about a minute, if you
like
could.
in higher education. But look what the higher education institutions did to the lottery scholarship, right? They drained it. I mean, the minute they found they could raise tuition and fees, and the lottery scholarship keeps pace with it, now we're going to come up with this opportunity scholarship. If they don't think through, especially the things they know that are going to happen, right? The minute we throw that pile of money out there, it's like blood in the water for sharks in higher ed. They'll come at it and get as much as they can.
But we also have to remain competitive in the
I
state
agree.
with other states. I mean, I think that higher education is often, an easy target because they have higher salaries. They have to attract talent, though.
That's right.
We have to remain competitive with other states. Otherwise, we're going to lose credibility and we're going to lose students to better schools.
Good point there. The budget also includes a very small number that's attracting a lot of attention. $900,000 for the new Ethics Commission. That's 25% less than the commission's director says it needs to be able to monitor state government. In your New Mexico government news, correspondent Gwyneth Dolan went to the Roundhouse this week to see if lawmakers were hamstringing the group that's supposed to keep an eye on their behavior. She also found a new effort to change the way the state draws its legislative districts.